Hello, people of Ericus. I am the leader of the New Halge Times, and I'm here with Mr. Flint here, who's a candidate for the Parliament and maybe even possibly the Chancellorship.
Hey, it's nice to be here.
Ah, very nice. How's your day been, Mr. Flint?
It's been pretty good, pretty uneventful.
That's good to hear. That's good to hear. So I'm curious, why are you running for Parliament?
I personally am running for parliament because we have very important legislature that we have to pass on day one, immediately after we take the oath of office and get sworn in.
Hmm.
This includes the Infrastructure Act, which we're working on with Meyer from the UAP, and the Secret Service Act or Intelligence Act from the PSPP, which Jim is spearheading. So it's very important to me that I can kind of um, keep this across party lines and not let my own party devolve into partisan politics.
That sounds very, very important. So I'm curious. I've heard rumors that you are already forming a coalition government before you've even made it into office. I mean, if that's true, that's amazing.
I mean, like I said, I do try to work across the aisle, and I do try very much to work with my political opponents slash colleagues, which I am, and I have. Especially with the merger with the Moikadi party. Um,
That was a big
the
deal.
apparently, I didn't think it would be. Um, it was just I think one or two members of that party that we merged with, but I mean our ideals aligned, and like I said, I very much like to work across the aisle. I think we should all come to one consensus, even if that's just a compromise. I think that's how the nation should be run, and if I am elected, that's how I'm going to run it.
So the PSP, they have their centralized thing is I believe free food, as well as I guess education. And the UAP, I've heard that they're primarily talking about infrastructure and community engagement. What does the NWP have to offer along those similar lines, primary objectives, I guess, if you will?
So the NWP basically has a stance of the little most possible intervention that we can. We basically just try to make it possible for everyone in Erica's to do whatever they want, build something, make money, however it is. We offer lots of jobs in the Red House. Um, we, we fund lots of and we sponsor lots of projects in Erica's. Not to mention the Ice Highway, that's going to connect various different claims in Ericus. And yeah,
Um,
yeah.
how do you feel about the recent expansion of Ericus, be it the Moicot unification or the purchasing of Mysteria or your own personal seizing of New Gromborg?
Right. So all that was definitely spearheaded by Smoggy. He organized it all, especially the Moikadi merge. That was a very close call. They would have basically been decimated by various different nations, partitioned even, and Smoggy stepped in and managed to get us a merge with that nation, and he's tripled, maybe even quadrupled our landmass so far, and we're definitely not speaking as the NWP here. We're definitely not an expansionist party. We definitely don't want to wage war in an aggressive manner. Um, but up until now, the land expansion of Ericus has been peaceful and diplomatic. So I commend Swangy for that.
All right. Here's a question for you about your more private affairs. The Red House is by far the largest and most highly valued company in Ericus. What do you say to citizens of Ericus who think that maybe you're a bit of a stuck up, wealthy businessman?
I'm definitely not wealthy. I hope I'm not stuck up. Uh, right now I have a balance of $31,000. I realize that to new players who only have 5,000 in their balance, that may seem like a lot, but it's really not. I really tried to reinvest all my earnings directly into Ericus, and into the Red House, of course, um, because the Red House is, even though it is a company, it's mostly a way to empower the people of Ericus to build, play, do whatever they want, which you need money for, of course. So I do try to reinvest all my earnings, and I'm not a very wealthy man.
I do believe you have a an employment program for new citizens so that they can come and work for you. Is that correct?
Yes, several actually. I do sell enchanted pickaxes and haste at the Red House, which is very popular with new players since they know the ways of vanilla Minecraft. They can just get into it. They can teleport somewhere random, go mining for 10 minutes, and they have their money back and more. So that's a very popular alternative for new players. And then there's of course XP farming and armor making and tool making for the more experienced players, where of course the margins are actually higher.
Mr. Flint, how do you feel about the current economic motives for making money within Ericus?
Um, so I don't want to shift the blame on previous leadership, or rather current, I guess, until the election. um, there isn't really a way to make money in Ericus right now. At least not before the Red House opened. Um, and the Red House is too small at the moment to fully satisfy, you know, the need for money that the people that live here have. I mean, I'm constantly out of stock. I'm constantly having to resupply. People are obviously, interested in actually making money and achieving something on the server. Whether it's building infrastructure or mega builds or their own house maybe somewhere in Lindau. Um, but whatever it is they want to achieve, they want to do something here. And these opportunities simply don't exist in Ericus right now. And I do plan on changing that. I do plan on strengthening the Red House a lot more. I do plan on centralizing our whole economic system actually way more. I'm working again across the aisle with Meyer, or the UAP on this. Constructing a central and internal market where citizens can buy and sell all kinds of products and building blocks and tools from us and to us. And we kind of are the connection between them and international merchants or buyers or stores, where we actually do have connections already. So yes, we do plan to turn around Erica's economy, and hopefully for the better. I'm positive for the better.
That's very good to hear. So, at the current point, I understand that there's a lot of projects that are in the works across Ericus. From Lindau to Voisin to Ericus to Lanway to New Gromborg. There's all these cities. We got all this land, and it ain't super developed at this current point. What do you plan to do about that? I know you've talked about working with the UAP, but I mean specific plans.
Right. I'm working with the big people, the one of the current Mycoti lords, that took over during the merger, and I'm working with him. I'm working with Meyer. I am working with Jim to an extent on this, to fill this land with actual infrastructure and housing. Our current problem is one, of course, the building restrictions that have been set on us. We're very how do I say this amicably? We're very restricted in our ability to actually freely build housing and infrastructure. Um, so we do our best to work around it, but it's a challenge, which is why we are working on the UAP's infrastructure department bill to get over that hurdle. But yes, I do plan on and already am working with various lords to enable them to actually develop their provinces better, and so that we actually have housing to put new citizens in.
Well, now that you bring up the topic of lords, how do you feel about the lords' power within Parliament?
So I, of course, was one of the writers of the Constitution along with you, Blaze. Um, I was a I was a critic of the Lord's place in Parliament at first, um, but to a certain degree, they are our constituents. They make up our country. You know, without them, we'd be a stateless government. So they do, of course, need to be represented somehow, and need to be able to voice their concerns and make changes in this nation. So I'm confident that the Lord's excuse me position in Parliament will be fruitful and prudent to actually improving the nation, and especially with things like I just talked about, infrastructure and building, that they actually can push things through Parliament that maybe a less lord focused or land focused Parliament wouldn't pass, so that these lords can actually, you know, grow and build their provinces without having to work through all this bureaucracy and restrictions from certain people.
Well, that brings me to my next question. What changes would you make to the current Constitution? Would you make if you weren't forced to compromise, as took place a lot during the construction of the Constitution itself?
Right. Yes, you are right. We did make a lot of compromises on various things. The overall vision of the document was, in my opinion, still preserved, and you know, it's a fine document that we can base our nation off of. Um, I guess, you know, one of those compromises was the position of Grand Magistrate itself, which Panda holds. Um, you know, that was a pure, I'll say it bluntly, a pure bargaining tool. I mean, that was a bargaining chip. Without it, we couldn't have, you know, actually brought up this democratic government. And also, I do have to thank Smiley again on this occasion, because he very much pushed for the establishment of a democracy in our nation and the parliament, which I'm sure if he hadn't supported that, we would not be here today in this fashion.
Hmm. So you bring up topics like King Smoggy and the Grand Magistrate. What is your official position on the power of the monarch as well as the power of the Grand Magistrate?
Well, to say it simply, it's outlined in the Constitution. I think the monarch is, you know, I may be a bit biased. I think the monarch is restricted a bit too much in his powers. You know, Smoggy is a great leader, has been for years now, and I do think he deserves and should get more power in that fashion. And relating to the Grand Magistrate, like I said, it was a bargaining chip. I don't mind its existence. Um, I don't think it's a necessary addition to our constitution.
Within the Constitution, there are a lot of powers made out to m- ministers and such. Who would you like to see be the minister of every currently planned department?
That's a that's a big question. I guess I'd start with the first one we're planning on passing, which is the infrastructure department. I'd very much like to see Meyer head that. And you know, I think he's very talented. He's a very good builder. Uh, and you know, I do like to work across the aisle, like I already said. I think it would make I think it would make a very good addition to a NWP cabinet as a minister of infrastructure.
Hmm.
Um,
And what of defense and all the others?
right. um, well, I guess to not draw my answer out for too long, the Department of Defense or War, however you want to call it, we're still debating a candidate for that position. We do have some in mind. Some very talented people, some very experienced people, but we haven't made a final decision yet. And I guess for the Department of Economics, if it does come to be, I would probably pick Matt. Maybe if we could work across the aisle again. Weak Wi-Fi. I've heard very good things about him, and but like I said, there's no final decisions on that. Um, we're still debating that in the party.
So there are only currently three planned ministerial departments.
Yes,
Okay.
we don't want to make the mistake of giving various departments more overhead than they should have. We
That's
don't want
sensible.
to. Right. I mean, we just don't want too much convolution and bureaucracy and restrictions placed on things. We want a way that citizens can actually build things in Ericus, hence the infrastructure department. We of course want to be safe from war, hence the Department of Defense, and of course we want our nation to actually thrive and be productive, hence the Department of Economics.
What is your So I understand you come from Steinyard, and all of these, if you will, prior states of Halge, or the idea of Halge. What
Right.
mistakes do you think were made in societies such as Old Halge and Steinyard that you do not want to see repeated here in Ericus?
Well, one of them we actually just talked about, which was kind of creating this giant blob of government that doesn't really have a purpose or a direction it's going in, but rather just exists to placate the need for the masses to be elected. If you know what I mean, the the actual point of our government will be to spearhead our country into one direction that we agree on and that will be fruitful and prudent for our nation. That is a mistake I've made in Steinjarn. I've created too many departments. I've created too many seats in Parliament that Parliament just becomes unable to move and unable to actually face problems. So yes, I don't plan on making the same mistake twice.
Hmm. That's very responsible of you and very insightful of you. I think that's a very good decision. So it's no secret that within politics there are rivalries and competition. Um, and here in Ericus, I understand you have some trouble with certain people. How would you seek to soothe those tensions if after a possible victory?
Well, I've tried to be as amicable and friendly to my political opponents as possible, and I think it's worked out pretty well for all of us. I mean, I wouldn't consider any of the current parties that exist right now as a real rival to ours. Much rather a colleague, a coworker, a fellow constituent in this country. There are some extra political, I guess you could call them rivalries, that we do still have to work on. It does rather tend to the personal direction. So I wouldn't love to make it party policy to
Hmm.
clear that up.
And for my final question to you, who do you think of the other two party leaders? Who do you think is going to be the most amicable to work with?
That's a very difficult decision. I've talked a lot to both Jim and Meyer, the leaders of both the fellow parties. Um, I guess I would say, purely ideologically speaking, um, Jim. the leader of the PSPP. The they're focused on the worker, and they want collectivist policies. I guess ideologically speaking, we're quite a good matchup, but I wouldn't discredit Meyer and the UAP. I mean, he's made a great effort to work with the other parties and to create a amicable political landscape in this country. So, uh, yeah.
I did. Well then, if you have one thing you'd like to say to the audience who watch this interview, tell them right now.
Well, I would like to say thank you for bearing through this. The writing the Constitution, trying to set up our government, waiting for elections. Thank you very much for being so patient with us. There was a lot of people involved, but those who weren't, I know it must have probably been a pain to see, the Constitution get revised again and again and again. So yeah, thank you very much for your patience, and I'm looking forward to actually, playing in this nation, doing politics, and winning elections, hopefully.
Well, this has been Blaze of the New Halge Times, signing off our first interview here in Aragus.